Hello, hello. We are in week 11, the 27th of March, and we're shifting into looking at mathematical concepts. That's a fancy way of saying we're looking at what numbers and numeracy and patterns look like in early childhood. Understanding patterns is a really important part of early childhood work, and children are trying to create patterns cognitively all the time. We don't really have to teach them to do that; they just do it on their own. That's the way the brain works. Is it's a pattern seeker. So I'm sure you've had this in other classes where they've talked about the brain wanting to establish patterns right from birth on. So, because the brain is naturally a pattern seeker, we really don't have to sit down and teach children patterns by having them do puzzles or try to recreate patterns. Their brains are doing that naturally. What we need to do is show them, expose them to things that allow the brain as a pattern seeker to begin to create patterns of understanding. So, the best way we can do that, the most obvious tool we have, is the natural world. We already know that children belong outside much more than they're outside. And learning to do a pattern activity on a computer or a pad, a tablet, really doesn't have a lot to do with more than just manipulating shapes on a screen. It does not have much to do with how the brain learns to create patterns, which it does naturally as a pattern seeker. So all of us create patterns. We're all pattern seekers, and it's one of the reasons why it's so hard to change. When you want to change a pattern you have, it's very hard to do that because the brain is very naturally inclined to maintain the patterns that it has established. So I'm going to show you a few things out of the many, many, many things I've done with patterning in particular in math in early childhood. So I'm going to introduce you to somebody named Snowflake Bentley. I loved doing this with children because kids are so naturally fascinated with snow and snowflakes, and we don't need to give them all of the specific science around it. We just need to establish a sense of wonder about it and the shapes in the snowflakes. So just watch this little 8-minute documentary. It's really sweet. And I'm hoping it will inspire you to think of a simple activity you could do. So when I'm asking you in the reflection piece this week to create an activity, I don't want you to write out a long, long, long lesson plan activity or even like you did in your index of activities. I just want you to say something like, I might have a lot of paper out with scissors and let children try to cut the paper into snowflakes by showing them how to fold it and then cut and then open it and see what shape or pattern it made. Just a discovery activity like that. If it's snowing out, clearly you could just bring snow inside or go out and play in the snow. It doesn't have to be a long lesson plan with a lot of information, just a simple activity. So I hope that helps you. So on the next one here, a big thing I did a lot with in my early childhood and kindergarten classrooms, for that matter in my grade 1 and 2, 3 classrooms, was quilts. Quilts are a great cultural study because most, if not all, cultures have some kind of version of quilting. And so it's wonderful. You can explore. I'm showing you a few here, but you should jump in and find all kinds of cultures that use quilts and make quilts because there are so many out there. So I have shown you The Art of Faith Ringgold because she's a children's book illustrator and has her books have incredible opportunities for exploring shapes and patterns in quilts. And then here's a book called Stitchin' and Pullin' that you're going to hear this teacher reading these poems. So just choose one of the poems and think of maybe an activity you might do that's appropriate for younger children. I like the one associated with Dr. King. I think that's a really good connection to make during that period of history. And remember, when you're teaching those parts of history, please do not confine yourselves to the Dr. King holiday or Black History Month because we need to start incorporating Black history is American history, women's history is American's history, and so on. So we should be teaching these all the time, and teaching these quilts with incredible shapes and patterns in them is a wonderful way to do that. Here is the NAEYC piece on shapes in preschool. It's a really good piece. So just tell me 3 things from the article that were new to you, or if you already knew them, maybe share activities you've done or would do with 3 of the things from the article. Again, not long lesson plans, just like 3 sentences. I would do this activity and just tell me 2 or 3 things about it, not much at all. Nature is, some people call it in this a geometry playground. So if you want to think of it that way, I certainly do. And so this is a short article, but and it does have stuff in it that's really for older kids, but there's a lot in there you could do with younger kids. And I'm hoping it would inspire you to think of an activity you could do. And then, keeping with the idea that patterns are found in the natural world, there's an artist named Andy Goldsworthy. I used to teach that for as long as 2 or 3 months, just continuing to build on my students' interest in the artist Andy Goldsworthy, and then also, them creating their own sculptures in nature. And just by creating with natural materials, the brain is building patterns. So again, you don't need to teach them, say they were outside and you just had a big box of sticks or there's sticks on your playground, and just observe the children, how they arrange them or what they do with them. I know for a lot of preschoolers it's point and shoot, but maybe we can move away from that by playing a patterns game. So you could take the sticks and sit down and say, hey, can you make your sticks look like mine? And then, maybe make some kind of funny shape with the sticks. So, and see if they can recreate them. So that way you kind of start to understand patterning without them having to imitate a specific shape. So I know there's a lot of emphasis in early childhood classrooms around teaching the names of shapes. And if you want to do that, you can. The language around it is not as important as the idea that they understand patterning. And I'm going to add here a video of how you can do something with young children with making different patterns and shapes as well, just so that you can see some other ideas. So I hope you have fun with this. I'm not assigning any textbook or heavy-duty readings on this week, so that you can have time to start to plan ahead for your lesson plan in the math area. We'll have one more week next week where we talk about numeracy and understanding one-to-one correspondence. Which are 2 of the big pieces of early childhood math instruction. So hopefully this is helpful. And again, I'm not looking for really complicated activities. And please don't look activities up on the web, on the internet, and send me links from those. Please create something from your own creativity, your own ideas. Okay. Have a good week.